Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're going to tackle a word you hear all the time. But what does it really mean? We're talking about strategy.
So, how do the legendary companies really win? The Apples, the Amazons of the world. Is it just luck, a stroke of genius? Not really. It all comes down to one thing, a coherent strategy. It's the playbook that guides every single move they make.
So to really get our heads around this, let's build a strategy from the ground up. We're going to use a simple but really powerful metaphor, the strategic pyramid. It's the perfect way to see how all these different complex pieces actually lock together.
All right, every great strategy starts at the very top of the pyramid, with the peak. You've got to have a clear destination in mind. I mean, it makes sense, right? You can't draw a map if you don't know where you're going. And that destination, that's your vision. This is the big picture, the long-term dream. It's like the North Star for the whole company. It's that powerful, inspiring answer to the fundamental question, why are we even doing this? But a vision is just a dream without a plan. That's where objectives come in. They take that big, fuzzy vision and make it real. We're talking about those SMART goals, specific, measurable, achievable, all that good stuff. It's how you turn "we want to be the best" into "we're going to increase market share by 10% in the next 2 years." See the difference? It's aspiration turned into an actual plan.
Okay, so we've got our destination set. We know where we're headed. But how do we actually draw up the blueprints for the pyramid itself? Well, it turns out there are a few different ways to approach this.
So what's the right way to think about creating a strategy? The answer is, there isn't just one. There are basically 3 major schools of thought, and each one asks a totally different but equally important question. The key here isn't about picking a side. It's about understanding all 3.
Okay, let's break this down. First, you have the content school. This is all about the what. What markets are we going to play in? What products are we going to build? Then there's the process school. This is the how. How do we actually create and implement the strategy? What's our planning process? And finally, the practice school, which might be the most overlooked. This is the who. Who are the people that have to make this strategy a reality? What's our culture like? Here's the thing, a truly killer strategy has to nail all 3. Because if you have a brilliant plan, the what, but your team doesn't have the process or the culture to execute it, the how and the who, well, it's just a piece of paper. So no matter which way you think about strategy, the what, the how, or the who, you can't build a thing without knowing what you're building with, right? And that brings us down to the foundation of our pyramid, your internal environment. So what is the internal environment? Simple. It's everything you've got inside your own company. It's your toolbox. It's the collection of all your strengths, and yeah, all your weaknesses too. And that includes the obvious stuff, like your resources, money, people, technology. But it's also about your organizational structure, your day-to-day processes, and maybe most importantly, your company culture. Those unwritten rules that really dictate how people behave and make decisions. Now, buried deep within that foundation are the real crown jewels. Your core competencies. Now listen, these are not just things you're good at. These are the unique, almost magical things you do that nobody else can easily copy. This is your secret sauce. It's the real source of a lasting advantage. Let's make this super clear. A capability is being really good at something. Think about Toyota's legendary lean manufacturing process. That's a capability. But a core competency, that's different. It's something deeply ingrained, part of your DNA. Think of Apple's obsession with user-friendly design. It's not just a process, it's who they are. A capability is what you do. A core competency is what you are. And that's what makes you truly stand out. Okay, so you've got this amazing foundation, these incredible core competencies. Awesome, but a strong pyramid built in the wrong place is, well, it's useless. It can't just exist in a bubble. It has to fit into the world around it. And this brings us to a super important concept, strategic fit. It's all about alignment. Are your internal strengths, your whole pyramid, a good match for the external world? The market, your competition, and most importantly, what customers actually need and want. But what happens when things don't align? What happens when there's a gap between what you're good at and what the world needs? Well, you get what's called a strategic misfit, and that is a huge problem. The perfect example? Think of a classic retailer like Blockbuster. They were amazing at running physical stores. That was their strength. But when the world shifted to streaming, that strength became irrelevant. Their strategy just didn't fit the new landscape anymore.
This really drives home something called the configuration perspective. It's the idea that your company isn't just a collection of separate parts. Your strategy, your structure, your culture, they all have to work together like a well-oiled machine. If one piece is out of sync, the whole pyramid starts to wobble. So let's recap. We've built our pyramid. We've made sure it fits the landscape perfectly. We're winning. But how do we make sure it lasts? How do we reinforce it so it can stand the test of time? Because the real goal here isn't just to win today. It's about achieving what's called a sustained competitive advantage. That means consistently outperforming your rivals, not just for a quarter, but over the long haul. That's the holy grail. And there's a fantastic tool to figure out if you've got one, the VRIO framework. It's basically a 4-part test for any of your strengths. First, is it valuable? Does it actually help you win in the marketplace? Second, is it rare, or does everyone else have it too? Third, is it hard to imitate? Can your competitors just copy it? And finally, and this is crucial, are you organized to actually take advantage of it? You need to be able to say yes to all 4. If you can, you've likely found something that can give you a real, lasting edge. But let's be real. We live in a world that is constantly changing. A static advantage, no matter how great, won't last forever. So maybe the most important strength of all is the ability to adapt. And that's where this idea of dynamic capabilities comes into play. Dynamic capabilities really boil down to 3 things. First, you have to be able to sense what's changing out there. You have to see the shifts coming. Second, you have to be able to seize the opportunities those shifts create. You've got to act fast. And third, you have to be able to transform your own organization to stay competitive. It's basically the skill of rebuilding the pyramid while you're still living inside it. And that, my friends, is incredibly difficult, but also incredibly powerful.
Which leaves us with one last big question to chew on. In a world that's always in flux, what's a company's greatest strength? Is it having the perfect strategy? Or is it the ability to change that strategy? Because a perfect, beautiful pyramid is completely useless if it can't be reshaped when the very ground beneath it starts to shift. Maybe the ultimate strategy is being built for change.